One. Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to yet again another fantastic indie creator interview. It's your Cape Crusader Cody, and we're keeping it geekly with our new guest, James Ferguson. We're here to break down a real Slobberknocker issue 1. But before we get into the ring, I mean, you have a decent amount of work, Tales from the Pandemic, Personal Pan. You edited Killchella Ashcan. Not only that, but you did a lot of press too, you know, Horror DNA and Comic-Con. James, let's get to the basics of who you are and how you got into doing all of this.
Yeah, so it started in a cold winter night in February, 39 years. No, like I always dug comics. I did press for 12 years between Horror DNA and Comic-Con.com, and I've always loved like talking about comics and like figuring that out. And like I went through a lot of everyone kind of went through a lot of shit in 2020 during the pandemic, and like 2021, I'm like I gotta like reevaluate some things, and like I kind of put down the press hat after realizing I kind of like studied the craft for like a decade and like figuring out like what goes into a good comic.
Yeah.
So then I'm like, I gotta try to do some of this myself too. So I took a crack at, you know, with some encouragement with some friends, and like they're like, yeah, go ahead and do this. Write some stuff, figure something out. And it's a matter of just doing it, right? So like at first I was just kind of putzing around, but then I started to submit to some anthologies. I got into Nightmare Theater 2 with a fun story called Going Viral with Sonia Kinsey. You know, started that. And so I've really only been writing comics for like a year and a half or almost 2 years now. But like now I'm, you know, I've gotten some shorts and then gotten those under my belt, and I'm like, all right, I want to do something bigger. I want to take that step to do something a little more long form. I've been working with Dan Buxa to create a real Slobberknocker. So this is you know, my first full length comic book. It's really exciting for that, and that's where we're you know, the big new projects kind of talk about. I feel like every time, you know, when you talk to a creator, it's like, well, what's next? What's that? I'm like, well, I'm kind of finishing this thing, and we're gonna go on. Then we'll talk about some other stuff. But it's like getting into this and you know, launching my first Kickstarter campaign. It's exciting. It's terrifying, but like it's also one of those things where like I gotta do this, right? I gotta take this step. Like if I want to be serious about this, I want to make comics, I got to get out of that comfort zone and take this step. So that's what I'm excited for.
That's awesome. We have Mr. Dark Phoenix joining us over on Twitch. Welcome to the stream. It's so nice to see you. So how did it feel taking that leap from covering comics to creating them? I mean, that had to have felt like awesome, you know, to finally get your own story out there after covering other people's stories for so long.
Yeah, it was scary because I think I used press a lot as an excuse to not make comics. I've always wanted to do them, but like it was always a thing of like, well, there's always another book to review, there's always another press release to cover, or anything like that. And having that as like the kind of crutch for a while, and then I just had to kind of realize I took a sabbatical of sorts. I was like, I'm gonna go on hiatus for a little while. I took like a month, and that was like 6 weeks, and then like a quarter, and then I'm like, all right, it's been like 6 months. I think I'm done with this, you know? So it feels really exciting because like I've always heard about stuff about getting like, hey, I got new artwork in my inbox, and like to get those kind of this an unparalleled rush.
Yeah.
To get that when you're like, I don't know, I'm thinking about this, and then you see it come through, and then an artist puts together something, and it's like it's always a million times better. By the way, like I've yet to be disappointed in any shape or fashion. Like, you know, especially honestly, I've met a lot of artists who are like, hey, I really like horror. I was like, awesome, I like to do horror too. I'm like, I'm thinking of a monster, maybe it's like this, and then they come in with something completely out of the blue, like something I never would have thought of, like the monster that's in Going Viral in Nightmare Theater. I pitched to Sony, I was like, I don't know, maybe like a Cthulhu kind of thing, but like that's kind of been done a million times. And she made this thing that was like all tentacles and eyeballs and stuff, and I'm like, I don't know where this came from. Like I would have never thought about this in a million years, but it's so ugly and gruesome and just like amazing. I'm like, that's what I want. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, for me, like when I commission like just little logos, or I feel so good. How does it feel to see your passion like just develop into sequential art? I mean, it has to be unreal. Like how do you work with the artist? Do you let them kind of take the wheel and run with it, or do you want them to follow your vision?
Well, a big part of it is like you want to find folks that, you know, are into what your story is, and that, you know, lean into their strengths with stuff. So it's like, what are you interested in? What kind of stuff do you want to? A lot of my stuff has been more like horror or horror comedy kind of things. And, you know, people love to draw monsters, and that's what's really cool. Of like, you could draw regular people and stuff, but like to be able to get in there and it's like, all right, just go nuts. Like I said, like I did a story with David Escobar, who I'm working with again. We worked together in a story called Femme Fatale, and that was another one. I was like, I kind of want like a monster. free reign here, man. Like whatever you want to come up with. And he was like some like scorpion demon kind of thing that came out, and I was like, cool, like this works. Like I'm again, nothing that I had like specifically in there, but to see it translated like that and letting them run free reign, like that's the beauty of this collaborative medium kind of thing, right? Like it's one thing, like I do write a full script, but there's like plenty of room to work with the artist. Like I'm never gonna come back and be like, oh, that needs to be on the left side or something like that, because I feel like I'm really like a laid back writer because I rarely have notes for stuff because I'm just like, oh my god, this is great, like I'm so excited. Because every experience I've had so far has been like them, an artist taking it and really amplifying the words a million times. So that's
awesome.
What's so excited.
Yeah, that is fantastic. How's it feel to make the switch from horror to wrestling?
Yeah. So that wrestling was something like I got back into wrestling in like 2018 thanks to my brothers. My brother wanted to go to his bachelor party and at a WWE pay-per-view. So we went out to Pittsburgh to Extreme Rules in 2018.
Oh, that's cool.
And I'm like I was a lapsed fan. I fell out for like 20 years, and then I'm like, oh, I'm back. Like I got it. I'm in this. So since I started writing, I'm like, there's something really great about professional wrestling from a storytelling perspective that I wanted to do something with it. And an opportunity came up to pitch to another anthology, and I had worked with Dan Buxa on another short and another anthology, and I knew he's a big wrestling fan too. So I said like, hey, I had this idea for something. Do you want to pitch this together? He was into it. We started brainstorming designs, all this other stuff, and we pitched to this anthology, and we got rejected. And we're like, damn. Like we thought we had it. Like sometimes you get it, you're like, oh, like this, we're totally gonna get into this thing. We got it. Like, of course they're gonna pick us. And we got rejected, and we're like, well, that sucks. And then Dan reached out. He's like, you want to just do this anyway? Like, this is really cool. There's something here. So, like, it went from, it was going to be 5 pages, and then it expanded to 45 pages. And then I worked with James Powell as an editor, and now it's a 90-page story. And
doubled.
Like, yes. So, like, it brought out, like, it let some stuff breathe and, like, get, like, the most out of the energy of the characters and stuff. So now it's 3 issues, 90 pages, and that's what we're going through first. But like, there's not like necessarily a horror element in this. Like there's some spooky designs a little later on in this, and we deal with some like great emotional stuff. But like, it was a chance to stretch different muscles, right? Yeah. Like, so I'm like, all right, I think I have an idea of how to write a horror story, and I think I could make some fun moments and like comedic moments. But like, this is a little different, and it's like telling this story of like friendship and betrayal and just like that energy through the lens of professional wrestling.
We have Mr. Dark Phoenix saying, love James's shirt and vibe. I'll know he'll go far and believe in his goal and comic. Yeah, man, this, wrestling for me, I want to say I was the biggest Stone Cold Steve Austin fan. I remember having a mullet when I was like 10 years old with a Stone Cold, 316, the Rattlesnake, watched every pay-per-view, got all the VHS tapes, and like, I don't know what it was for me. It's like the second I found out it wasn't real, I was talking to someone else about this the other day. It like was worse. It was a more devastating blow to me than it was finding out Santa Claus wasn't real. Like, but that, wrestling seems like it's the perfect fit because there's a story. There's always a story that reels you in, whether it's about like a heel or some sort of ongoing conflict, some bloodline, feud. What's the story here? We have 2 protagonists, Bret and Jake, who are 2 best friends. So, go ahead.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head in terms of the storytelling aspect. Like, we know it's fake now. Like, we get it, but like it's storytelling is the key there. And you get invested in characters and you want to see it. And there's some areas where you're like, I know what's going to happen at the end of this story. Like someone's going to win this title, something's going to happen, but you still are so invested in that journey that you want to see it come through. So that's the kind of energy we're trying to bring to a real Slobberknocker. So we're following two main characters here, Bret and Jake. They're best friends for, as long as they can remember, but they were really bonded over pro wrestling. That was their like, what brought them together as kids. And then they come up together through the indie wrestling circuit as a tag team called the New Kicks. And they're kind of like figuring out who they are, and they finally get this big break. They're getting into the major leagues in a mythical, not mythical, fictional organization called GAW in here. And something happens, and I'm not going to spoil that, but like something happens is going to really split them apart. And not a spoiler in terms of where the book goes, but ultimately it's going to lead to the biggest match of their lives against each other. So that's key. So like, and we foreshadow that on the very first page. So that's why like I'm very comfortable talking about that, because like literally the very first page we show them fighting each other, and it's like that's like that journey is like, all right, we know it's going to get to that point, but like how does these friends who are laughing and having all this fun get into such a deep-seated rivalry? And that's what we're going to unpack with this story.
So this is a 1 issue of 3, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct. Yeah, we're planning for 3 issues. So this first issue is really the rise of the new Kicks, and we're going to culminate with that big event that I mentioned.
I love the name of the new Kicks too. So what were some of your favorite wrestlers, you know, from your favorite eras?
So like, I mean, I grew up during the Attitude Era. So, I mean, it's like, you know, always when like your parents would walk in at the most inappropriate time.
Oh, the
like,
D-Generation X.
D-Generation X. I'm like 10, 11 years old, and I'm telling people to suck it. You know, people are getting, you know, Rikishi's giving people stink faces. Like it was a whole mess there. But you know, back then, like I was a big Razor Ramon guy. Scott Hall, like his stuff was just like the coolest dude in the world was him.
Bro,
you know?
the Dudley brothers?
Oh no, cool. No, Razor Ramon, Scott Hall, he was in the NWO and the
well, no, I was saying the Dudley brothers, they were crazy too.
They were too, yes. And the Hardys, definitely, yeah.
When he power bombed I forgot her name, Aunt May or something like that.
Yeah, oh yeah, Mae Young.
Yes, through the table. and
80-year-old woman who's gonna go through a table. But yeah,
the guy's just like, oh my god, she's broken.
But that's and then the Hardy brothers too, who are still going. They were on TV last night. I mean,
yes, it's wild. They seem a little ragged though. Maybe
they're a little slower. Yeah, a little ring rust on them. But you know what? Like that crowd exploded when Jeff Hardy ran out yesterday.
We all did swanton bombs on trampolines. You know?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. So like those are my guys back then. Like now I'm a big Finn Balor fan. I love what he's done. You know, Becky Lynch I'm a big fan of as well. And then like there's a lot of folks in like AEW that I'm just like loving what that organization's done too. So like I'll watch both AEW and WWE to kind of like, you know, pick up everything. So there's a lot to enjoy in the pro wrestling space right now.
I think right now it's a perfect time. We need to step inside the ring and check out this Kickstarter. So give me a few seconds and we're going to switch right over there. Be sure to check it out with us. And if you're able to back, we would love to see that. But if not, simply putting this wherever you can. Word of mouth is 100% free, costs nothing to do. So let me get that link dropped in all these chats. Streaming on 7 different platforms. This is a big one and it's going off without a hitch. I could not be more happier.
Awesome.
Streaming in
all good.
720p too. That crisp clarity. It was 360 for 347 interviews leading up to this point, and it was nauseating once I found out. I was like, oh my god, what have I been doing? So James, first and foremost, congratulations at $2,335 of a $1,000 goal, 96 backers and 17 days left to go with Project We Love, your first campaign, man. How do you feel?
I feel ecstatic. So the campaign was we launched it WrestleMania weekend. So that was perfect. What I'm like, I put the marketing hat on for this one. I was like, you know what? Like the book is not fully illustrated yet. Dan is still working through some of the pages, but I said like, we can't miss this date. You know, like we have 7 pages that are on the Kickstarter here. We've got both covers available, and it's like we have more than enough for people to understand that we're serious. So like let's strike then. You know, WrestleMania, it's like it doesn't get bigger than that when it comes to the pro wrestling space. So we got to do it then. So, and we funded in 7 hours. I was like so excited to see, like, you know, it's one of those things I understand. I launched it during WrestleMania, so I had something else to do. Because otherwise I was just obsessively refreshing the page over and over again. And like, I understand it now. I get it now. You know, you launched the campaign and like, I'm still doing it now. I'm like, I have a refresh. It's been like 20 minutes. I could refresh the page again. Like, what's going on? But yeah, so it's really, really excited. I could not be happier with the funding so far. And like, you know, we're so close to 100 backers that I'm like, that's like the new goal of like trying to hit that.
How's it? So your first time crowdfunding, I mean, you're not really stressing out too much, or, you know, kind of dealing, you know, how's that feeling for you? I heard, you know, often the first day and the last day are the biggest, you know, jumps. So you have that plateau in the middle, you know, how are you dealing with that?
So I think it's been trying to find unique things to do. So because like the book isn't fully illustrated just yet, it's a matter then of realizing, all right, well, how else can I market this? Because typically what I would do is just send people the PDF and go like, let's talk about this. But since I don't have that specifically to do, it created a lot of unique opportunities. So one of them was Dan cut a promo for the book. Like, wrestling is half in the ring, the other half are people talking on the mic.
I think I seen that video on Twitter, right?
Oh my god, it was great.
Sold it so hard.
It was amazing, and he was like, big bucks coming at you with this, and I'm like, this is amazing. I'm like, now I got to do one. So like now I went and cut a promo, and then he's cutting another one, and then our buddy Matsumo got in. He's like, I'm gonna cut one and tell people, and it's a lot of fun cutting a promo for something, because like, you just kind of like, some of it was like off the mic, some of it is like, all right, I got to make sure I hit these kind of points with stuff, but like that was like something we got some traction for that. Like I talked about my experience with the Kickstarter platform, why I'm doing this, like what's going into this. Dan was sharing some like really cool artwork that he's done. Like he sketched like some phenomenal wrestlers. He did one just yesterday with Swerve Strickland. That, and like his stuff, it's like, this is like perfect example of like what's going into this book is this guy who's like, breathing wrestling and seeing this stuff firsthand, and it's like great stuff to see that's kind of the energy that we're bringing to this comic, and you can see that on full display. I
love the knee pads. Is that like a little nod to D-Generation X?
I think it's more of a subconscious one.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's Dan shared some designs of what he did. Like he put together about 4 or 5 different designs for the gear work for these guys, and like they were kind of like close. We're like, all right, this is something, and then this one just really clicked together with everybody. Yeah. And I think they have X's and O's on their knee pads actually. So
I love that.
Like there, yeah.
I love that a ton. And then this is a cover by Pete, right?
Yeah, Pete Collins did our variant cover, and what was awesome with this, like I'm not like a huge variant cover guy, so I was like, I don't really know how to do this. What should I look out for? And he said, like, well, we got to find an artist that's into wrestling too, and like we're friends with, and like we've talked with Pete forever. You could see in my my avatar picture there on Kickstarter. He did my business card too. I'm sure he did everybody's. It's great.
Yeah, he's a phenomenal.
Yeah, he's like 7 artists in one. Like his styles are great. If you're at the Bardic Versus, like that thing is like he switches styles all the time, and it's amazing. So I reached out to him and we're like, this is the book. He read through the script a few times and said like, we're open to like any options. And he had this brilliant idea to do homages to old Pro Wrestling Illustrated comic or magazines, and that's where this came from. And like Dan and I saw it and we're just like lost our minds. Like, this is so cool. And like definitely cemented him as like the variant cover artist for the rest of the book, because like the characters grow and change. There's different, phases for them in the next 2 issues. So it's going to be great to see what Pete does for the variant covers for the book moving forward. And I was like, I couldn't believe it. And he did this so fast. Like he was like, I got this idea, and like, just like plowed through it. So like, I couldn't believe how quickly he put it together.
And these interiors are gorgeous as well. If you guys are watching on the Keepin' It Geekly side of things, we had these on an image slideshow for you during our chat. But now everybody should have the opportunity to see this large in charge. So we see them kind of going throughout the years, learning how to be wrestlers here.
Yeah. So that's like the training grounds there. They're getting in there, clearly in over their heads with some of the folks that they come into contact with. But they love it. That's energy. Like, they have to do this. This is following a dream, and they have to see this through. So despite like literally being thrown over the ropes, like over the top, rope with things, they're like, we're gonna keep chucking along. Like, they're in this page here. I love Dan put in a guy in the stands who's sleeping. Like that. That's like, they don't care. Like, yet they're still approaching this with this energy. But like, we're gonna do this. We're gonna kick ass. But they're still gonna get their butts kicked until they kind of figure out who they are and what they're trying to do.
Well, that's the thing. If I was just watching a video. I don't know what it was about the algorithm, but it was this wrestler, and he's like known for really overselling things. Like, when he gets finished, he like really sells that he's hurt and everything. And he was talking about how that's not done a lot. And I like how it's shown here. Like, they're so about this. They're selling it even when the crowd's not even into it.
Yeah.
And that's hard to do, right? That's hard to be motivated to do that, knowing that you're not going to probably get the outcome that you want.
Yeah, I think there's definitely like a feeding off the crowd with wrestling. Like, when the crowd's into it, like the worst thing that can happen to a wrestler is there's no reaction. Like, it's one thing to get booed, it's one thing to get cheered, but if there's just crickets, like, that's rough, So they're despite the lack of energy with some of the crowds, they're approaching this and really like, all right, we're gonna give it our all, and really like get the most out of this and figure out who they are. And that's what like you see in this page is like cycling through a bunch of like silly gimmicks that are in here.
Yeah.
And this was fun. I told Dan, I was like, let's do anything. Like there's ridiculous gimmicks that pop through. I said they're teachers, they're clowns, they're doctors. Like I've been to some local indie shows, and like literally, it's like the gimmicks are like Italian guy, mental patient, and it's like that's all they did. There's no character. It's just like, oh man, this guy's escaped from the mental asylum. Like, okay, so that's them like kind of cycling through different ideas, and Dan really just like went to town for that and just like really invented some really cool gimmicks that kind of showed just how crazy wrestling can be. You know, there have been clown wrestlers, there have been doctor wrestlers, you know.
I just love these interiors as well. I mean, so how was it? Was there any trials and tribulations with like drawing all this action, you know, jumping off the ropes, all this fight sequencing? It just seems like it'd be a pretty complex situation to set up.
Well, what's really fun about writing a wrestling comic is that there's tons of reference material. So like anything I could think of, I don't know, like a really cool kick off the top rope. Like I could Google it and find like 10 videos showing something. And so anytime I had an idea for a move or something like that, I could find a great video showing exactly how it is. Or I'm like, I remember this match. There's something happened here, and I'm like Googling for like, you know, thumbnails or something like that. But as I said, Dan's a big wrestling guy too. So like he's seen definitely his fair share of these matches, so he knows like what goes into this and like how to pump up a crowd for something like that. So he's brought this like energy. Like I love that page particularly, like that drop kick and like that big super kick there. It's just like you could feel that, like, all right, the crowd is getting pumped up, like this is what we're into. And you can see in the background there's a lot more folks. Yeah.
Like the movement in that is phenomenal.
Yeah. And like, so Dan's like, I've worked with Dan before, and like his work here is just like on a whole new level for what he's doing. I'm so excited to see, like for everyone else to see what he's got coming in here.
So let's go through some of these tiers. I mean, these interiors are absolutely gorgeous. For everyone watching, right here is the link to check this out with us. Like I said, if you can't back, simply putting this wherever you can works just as well. We have actually Oblivia over on Keeping It Geekly's Twitch throwing in some hype, and Mama Geekly saying that's a cool idea, wrestling comic. The illustrations are great. Yes, my mom loves to hop, and thank you so much for swinging in, Mom. I appreciate it. So we have the digital edition of this for just $6. And how many pages in total is this going to be?
Yeah, so it's 28 pages of story is what we have for the first issue.
And then we have the deluxe digital edition at 8. So what else is going to be involved with this deluxe version?
Yeah, so we're going to put the full script in there, as well as all of Dan's designs for the characters, some of the sketches and stuff, so you can see exactly like how we went from the script to the design, to the thumbnails, to the finished work. So Dan does both the pencils and the colors for this book as well.
That's awesome, and it's gorgeous too. I love his work. The color palettes, the usage of it. It's just it's high octane, you know, and that's exactly what you want from wrestling. So
yeah, I've been a fan of Dan's for years. When one of my first exposure to him, he drew a book called Howl. That was a werewolf comic, and I've never seen someone draw a werewolf like him before or since. And I'm like, this guy's amazing. Like, so like I had no idea who he was at the time, but I was like, this is so cool. And then like, you know, fast forward and I'm just like blown away that I get a chance to work with him. So it's really exciting.
And then we have the physical edition of this starting at $12. So I mean, an outstanding price right there for the actual physical copy. And then you get the deluxe digital with this too?
Yeah. So what I like with it is like if you get the physical, I want you to get the digital copy as well. Like, yes, it is more expensive for that. I appreciate folks taking the time to throw in for a physical copy. The least I could do is throw in the PDF as well, because yes, it's more expensive than what you would get if you went to the local comic shop. But you're helping us make this, so I want to try to give as much as I can with that kind of stuff.
That's awesome, though. That is, I love that a lot. And then we have the physical edition variant cover at $25. So this is the pizza cover.
Yep, that's correct. Yeah, so you can get Pete's cover for a little extra. That's the variant that we're gonna have for the book, right, and then there's that's the Pro Wrestling Illustrated kind of homage there. So you can get Dan's standard cover, or Pete's, or spoiler alert for the next pledge level, both.
So at $33, these are some outstanding prices for your first campaign, man. For real, I really think these prices are like phenomenal, and a real big bang for your buck. Especially this next one too. You get a commission from Dan for just $125. So is this like anything that the backer wants, or is there certain stipulations to it?
Yeah, it's basically like it's a black and white standard commission, usually single character, although Dan's pretty flexible with a lot of stuff. I mean, he's not going to draw you like a whole landscape with a bunch of stuff, but if you looked at some of the things that he shared recently, and we shared some in a previous update as well, like he did some great illustrations for like FTR, which is a great tag team, and some other folks. You can see like what's going on. I think it's like one of the previous ones. I'm sorry, I don't remember.
Nope, sorry,
those are the designs.
Hold on 1 second.
But yeah, so like it could be a superhero, it could be a monster, it could be a wrestler, things like that. So there's Powerhouse Hobbs. So like Dan does like some phenomenal work, but this is the caliber of what you'd expect from
this is cool too. I really like this.
Yeah, and then Orange Cassidy
on his shirt too.
Yes, that he's one of my favorites too. He's like his when he's introduced, he's from wherever, weighing whatever. He's like very like laid back. He wrestles half the time with his hands in his pockets.
Yeah, this is gorgeous.
There's FTR. So we had 3 commissions available for Dan, and they went really quick. So he added 2 more. So there's still 1 left available. And with that, you get the commission itself. It's a physical commission, so not like just a digital one. And then you also will get both covers of the book and the digital edition.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, some awesome tiers here. Let's go ahead and just make sure we get them all. $250 become a wrestler in the comic. So is this going to be like they're going to be wrestling up against these 2 or?
Yeah, so you see, there's
awesome.
a few already wrestlers that like they come up against, and there's still a few more that there's spots available. So if you want to be in the comic, you can. And then what we're gonna actually update this, so this will be a little announcement, but like we're gonna give you the page that you're on as well. So like so that'll be as an announcement, everybody, keep it a Geekly exclusive. Ooh. There, but you'll get the actual page of the artwork that you appear on. So if you're in
cool.
Go throw down for that, you get there. And Dan's work, like I actually have one of his pages hanging up right here too. You'll get that page, and in addition to the both covers and the digital copy too. And you're in the book, and to clarify too, it's not like it's like, oh hey, here's this picture of me, and I'm just like, and I'm like in the comic. Like no, he'll work with you in terms of like, all right, what do you want to look like? How do you want to appear in the comic book? So if you have an idea and you're like, I want to have like face paint or I want to do something like that, we'll make you look cool. We're not going to make anyone look dorky in the book.
I love that. That is awesome. So right there is the campaign in its entirety. Let's go ahead and pivot back to our original screen. So for anyone that might be on the ropes, stuck on the turnbuckle, what would you like to say to them to kind of help get them off and to get them back in this project?
Yeah, so I mean, look, if whether you're a wrestling fan, new or old, hey Parker, that's my 7-year-old here. If you're a wrestling fan, new or old, like there's something really great about professional wrestling, and the beauty of it is still there. That's what I want to stress, is that like that's that energy. So if you feel, if you remember watching it as a kid, if you remember passing it by, you're like, that looks great, or you saw some guy jump off the top rope and do a swanton bomb or something like that. That's the lifeblood of this comic. That's what we put into it, from the script to the artwork to the covers. Everything that's in there is fueled by that energy. So, consider that when looking at backing the campaign, because that's what we're looking to put on full display with this book.
That's so awesome. So I know we mentioned there being 2 more issues to come in the future, but outside of this, what else are you working on in 2023?
Yeah, so I had a short in Tales from the Pandemic, which is a mixtape that Mario Candelari, I can't speak now. Mario Candelaria put together. It will be in comic stores in early May now from Band of Bards, and I had a short. Mario asked me to join him for one short. It's in there, so I have one there that they did with Laura Helsby and Leslie Adelansky, which is really fun to kind of play in that sandbox. It's kind of like a Twilight Zone vibe to it, and so we have that coming up. There's and then we're also with Mario and 2 other friends of ours, Phil Butahorn and Matsumo. We're working on a pizza themed anthology.
Oh, that's
between the 4
cool.
of us. And so I have a story that I wrote called Personal Pan that Darren Vogt illustrated. He's almost done illustrating, and like that excitement of bringing a story to life, like Darren's artwork is just so full of energy. So like I see stuff and I'm just like, I can't like I was very excited for the story. I was very happy with the story, but then like to see the energy and life that like Darren pumps into his artwork, it's just like I am so blown away by it, and it's so exciting. So I'm like, oh my god, like, so I'm very excited to get through a real Slobberknocker to like, get that out there, get a Kickstarter campaign under my belt, like officially running it like that.
After backing how many? Like almost 1,200?
Yes, quite a few. So yeah, I like, that's why like I have an idea of what works. So, I have been in quite a few of and it's funny because I was explaining this to my wife the other day and she's like, wait, how many and how much does it cost? I was like, don't worry, it's been over the course of years. It's not like it's like I'm just like poof.
It's a tax write-off. It's for educational purposes.
Yeah, it's all research now, so I think that works. Yeah, so that's something that's in the wings for later in the year is to really get that together and printed, because each of us wrote a story in this book, and we're gonna put it all together as this kind of pizza themed anthology that we've got.
That is so awesome. That is awesome. So James, we come to one of my favorite parts of the show, and that's where I get to ask you for a little bit of advice for anyone looking to make their big first major debut. And with that being said, what would you offer them? If you could maybe go back to when you first started and you could offer yourself, just what helped you the most, what would you say?
You got to start. Like, that's what it comes down to. It's going to be scary. It's going to be intimidating, but like write something. Put something on the page, and it's not going to be perfect to start. My buddy Phil calls it a puke draft when he first starts writing something. Because this is like, just get it out, get it out of your head. Because I spend all this time asking people, well, how do you start? How do you do this? And like, no, you just gotta start. That's the thing. It's the scariest thing, and it becomes easier over time because the most intimidating thing is writing, and like it's just starting that, and like you're staring at a blank page. So if you just start writing, sometimes it could just be like stream of conscious. And that's what like a lot of the notes that I have before I start scripting is just like, what about this? And like, it's literally me asking questions of myself. Like I'm the only one reading this, but like, I'm like, what about this? Or like, no, we need something here. How can we do that? And kind of writing it all out there. And then you start to pick it apart and go, oh, that's good. That's good. That's good. And then you have an outline, and then you can write, you get a script going. But the best thing, you got to start. It's scary.
I feel so targeted right now. I feel so targeted because I'm that guy who kept doing like, hey, why not? Let's get James on. I got some time. Could have definitely sat down and wrote something, because I've been wanting to get something out too. And I keep like just taking on more and more. And it's maybe I'm subconsciously just preventing myself from doing it. It's like when you said that earlier, I'm like, son of a gun, is that me? Like,
look, I didn't mean to guilt you with that by any stretch. It's like, look, we're all having fun. That's the thing. Like, as long as you're still getting that enjoyment, you're like, yeah, let's just pumped. I want to do all these things. Like, this is perfect. Like, there's nothing wrong with this at all. But it can't hurt sometimes. Just, you carve out like 10 minutes. You got an idea? Like, I have literally one document in Google Docs that I just write down. It's a bullet pointed list of premise ideas. And sometimes I have no idea what the hell any of that meant. But like, I woke up in the middle of the night and I had to write something down. But like, all of those are seeds for ideas. And all of those are things that I could come back to now. Like once Slobberknocker wraps up, I'm like, all right, what's the next thing I want to start to write again? That's what I'm going to start to mine for. I'm like, all right, we'll pick apart this and see what's going on. But you got to start somewhere, and that's what's really fun about it.
I love that. So James, before we let you go though, what are you watching? What are you reading? What are you playing if you play games? What type of media are you consuming outside of your own comic?
Yeah. So right now I'm doing a lot of. So look, I had to get cameos from both of my kids clearly. So this is Oliver here. Watching, I'm trying to keep up to date with Succession. That's back now on HBO, and I love how horrible all of those people are, but yet I still root for them sometimes, and like I'm very conflicted by how I feel about it, because it's like they're all competing over who's least horrible in every week.
I love
but that's been a big one, and I've been also going back and watching the original Spider-Man animated series from the 90s.
Oh, it's so good.
Oh my god, I love that. Every time that theme song, that's like the one theme song I will never skip. I'm just like rocking out immediately to that. In case you can't tell, like I'm a big Spider-Man fan. There we go. I can't see you from that way. A big Spider-Man fan. So like that just brings me back wholeheartedly.
After the show, I'm gonna have to show you. I have my Iron Spider up there. It was like my big, like, I got caught up on editing. It cost like $80. I was like, this is my big, like, once I get this done, I can buy this.
Yes.
And I'll show you. Yeah, we have Cypher Kid walks in like he owns a joint. My kids too. I have to bribe my daughter. Like, hey, I will pay you. Like, if there's an like emergency interview or something, like I'll pay you $10. Like, keep them entertained upstairs.
Yeah.
But I'll still have a kid like be like right here, and I'll be like
they don't care.
No, and they're like, Dad, Dad, I'm like,
Yeah.
bro.
You know what's really funny? I have the light switch for this room for some reason. The way the house was set up is outside of this. So there are times I've locked this door, and I'm like, I'm in the middle of something. I'll be in the middle of a phone call, like a Zoom call or something like this, and I'm like just focusing. I'm trying to like do this, and then the lights start going off and on because I'm like, hey, trying to get my attention. And I'm like, I'm trying to do work here, guys. What's going on?
Oh, that is so awesome. I think right now is the perfect time for us to hop off before we have any more interruptions. So with that being said, guys, right here is the link for the last time. Be sure to back this if you can. Put it wherever you can. Word of mouth is 100% free. I hope you all have a lovely Thursday, but most importantly, guys, keep it geekly.